Welcome to the President's Desk on 96.9 FM, KGPC, and Peraltal Television, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff speaks with community members, colleagues, and student leaders. This program is supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, who co-hosts along with Laney College journalism major Randy Cross and President Dr. Rudy Besikoff.
Pull up a chair and join me and Felicia at the President's Desk today. Touching our community is the topic that's on the table as we welcome Peraltal leader, Dr. and Reverend Lawrence Vanhook to the show today. In and around our conversation, we'll be putting the spotlight, as always, on our partners of Laney and discuss ways to support the Peralta College's foundation in its efforts, as always, to provide scholarships. As always, the President's Desk airs at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on FM 96.9 in Oakland, KGPC, or online at kgpc969.org. And it can be seen Sundays on Peralta TV from 1 to 2 p.m. That's channel 27 on the dial, TV viewers. And if you can't catch us then, that's no problem. All our shows are available anytime on demand at kgpc969.org. along with a lot of other great Peralta programming, such as the Merit Hour. And as always, the President's Desk can be heard on Apple Podcasts as well as iHeartRadio. Want to interact with the show? Email us at laneypodcast@peralta.edu. And you social media folks can like us on Facebook at Laney College President's Desk Podcast. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Laney Podcast. YouTubers, you can find select interviews and content for the show also by subscribing to the Laney College President's Desk channel. I'm Rudy Besikoff, president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving the greater Oakland community since 1927 and has been known as Laney College now for more than 66 years. You know, great teams are what this show is all about. And in addition to my co-hosts and guests, Elena Sanchez in the president's office books guests for the show, and Raya Zion pitches in as a show contributor. But you know what? Getting things kicked off for the show today is my co-host, Felicia Bridges. Felicia, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Randy. Rudy, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It's good to see you as always. You know what? Getting things kicked off today is my co-host, Felicia Bridges. Felicia, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Rudy. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Well, you know, graduation's behind us right now. We're going to talk about it a little bit today, but we're kind of getting into the summer and things calm down a little bit. What are things like here at KGPC in June and July?
Actually, things slow down a little bit, and it's a time for me to kind of catch up because I'm a little bit behind on loading episodes up on the website. So it's a lot of cleaning that goes on during the summer. I'm going to be doing some enhancements to the website as well. And
looking forward to that.
Working on marketing, getting us more attention.
Well, I know
focus.
I know someone who's very busy as our guest today, Dr. Lawrence Vanhook. Dr. Vanhook, your summers, when we kind of get through the school year, what are your summers like, sir?
Wow. My summers are just as busy as my springs and falls. It seems like there is no rest for the weary.
None at all. Wow. What's a typical summer activity, especially just in your world, all the things you do?
Well, actually, the month of July is normally my break time. I take a motorcycle trip on a Harley Davidson from California, normally to the East Coast. And it takes me about 4 days for me to get on the bike and do a lot of cussing at my stuff that I missed out on that I should have, and then get back on it and forgive myself for all the stuff that I didn't able to do. And so that by that time, I'm either in Florida or on the East Coast, and then I think of some other stuff and we'll go all the way back. So, but other than that, if I'm not teaching a class, normally there's just so many summer things that really kick in either with the faith community or with some type of civic engagement or something. So it's all 1 year for me.
All right. Well, you touched on something we haven't talked about much, so I might as well do it now.
Hey.
Your bike, your Harley. What kind? I am totally ignorant, so this will be lost on me. But what kind of motorcycle do you have?
I have a 2018 Road Glide, Harley Davidson, and I have basically all the bells and whistles.
All right. Let's say that I'm someone who has never ridden a bike before, but I'm interested. What would be a good starter Harley?
Whoa, a starter Harley would be something like a Fat Boy or a Roadster.
Did you get that, Felicia?
I did.
Roadster. Okay.
Yeah, once you get to the, I have the Cadillac of the Harley Davidsons outside of the CVO. The CVO is the Supreme de la Supreme. Actually, my wife drives that.
That's right. So no topic goes untouched here at the president's desk. Wanted to ask, my impression is you don't ride alone when you do this.
No.
How many people typically take that ride to Florida and back with you?
So I'm part of the Buffalo Soldiers and Troopers Motorcycle Club of the United States. We have over 113 chapters.
Wow.
We are in Guam. We're in Korea. We're all over, plus Hawaii, even though Hawaii is part of the States. And so there's approximately maybe 3,000 riders, not including family and associates.
Wow, that's amazing. In addition to being apparently a prolific person on the motorcycle, also part of your background includes, of course, teaching African-American studies. I wanted to ask you today, if someone comes into your class learning about African-American studies, what could they expect?
Well, the good thing about African-American studies is in my school journey, Dr. Besikoff, one of my professors, he opened up and he started talking about his family. And I never will forget, one of the students said, Doc, we don't want to hear about your family. We want to hear about history. And he said, well, the first thing you need to understand is our journey is history. And so when we talk about our family, we want to get the story right. And so history is one of the most important classes that you can learn from things that have happened in the past so that they won't actually repeat if it's not healthy and productive in the future.
You know, I went to University of Colorado, and on the front of the University of Colorado library is what you just said. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And that's actually etched in stone. And that's amazing. Who is a figure in African-American history that you always seem to put the spotlight on as you teach?
I professionally, Adam Clayton Powell.
Show our listeners, who's that?
Adam Clayton Powell was a U.S. Senator who is out of New York, out of Brooklyn, out of Harlem. And he's a pastor of a church. Awesome, prolific speaker, but he also knew that the people in Harlem and in the Bronx and in his area and district needed representation. And so he was one of our first heroes that was able actually to preach from the pulpit of his congregation, but also go and legislate in the halls of justice in Washington, D.C.
Wow. What was some legislation that he pursued?
Well, let me just tell you what he's famous for. He's famous for the legislation around the African descent people that had some injustices in New York. And he was so famous until he impacted quite a few more African descent personalities to even run for office, where there was no one actually even in the pipeline to do so. Awesome inspirator, awesome. One of the reasons he was such a pull for me is because he was always positive. They would come to him and ask him, Dr. Powell, what are we going to do? We don't have enough money. And he said, well, how much do we need? And they would tell him how much they need. And he would go to the crowd and to the public and he would say, we are almost there. We just need a few more dollars. And every single time they would always reach their goals. And so he was such a powerful, very well educated, strongly, widely, and personally read so that he could really speak to the issues where we live, work, and worship.
You know, one person I'm very connected to, and this is probably one of the most well-known people in African-American history, is Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
And my connection is I was born on March 21st. And of course, April 4th was the very tragic day What do you take from his life?
Well, my mentor happened to have been Dr. Martin Luther King's logistics officer.
Really?
Yes, he pastored the Canaan Church in New York, and he actually, literally, as a professor and as a mentor, we sit down and listen at everything that he talked about. So what his job was to go into the city 2 or 3 weeks before Dr. King would get there. He would rally up all of the allies, rally all the faith communities, rally all of the community organizations. And Dr. Wyatt T. Walker is his name. He's got over 70 books out.
Amazing.
And he just passed about 6-7 years ago. But he was my mentor, my go-to guy. But he was Martin Luther King Jr.'s, Dr. King's logistics officer.
You know, I know Felicia's probably got a question, but one thing I'll add also is with him, you know, you always think about John F. Kennedy and Jackie Onassis, Jackie Kennedy, and how elegant she was. I think the exact same thing of Coretta Scott King.
Wow.
I feel like she's right there with Jackie. I really feel that way.
I wanted to ask you to reflect on the pod graduation or the African American graduation. It just completed. I'm saddened that I didn't get an opportunity to attend it because I hear that it's an amazing event. Tell me about it.
It truly was.
16 years ago, when it came to an opportunity for me to do the Peraltal Association of African American Affairs graduation, Black graduation. Elihu Harris was the chancellor at the time. And so I said, listen, Chancellor Harris, we really don't have any way of honoring our accomplishments as African descent people. And I would like to pull Peralta in as a way to do a graduation so that we can begin to honor people. And so his response to me, I never will forget it. He said, Dr. Vanhook, if you can pull this off, you are much better than what I think, because you got 4 different colleges, 4 different campuses. He says, and whatever you need, I'll give it to you if you can make this happen. That was 16 years ago. Every year, builds a life of its own. Dr. Godbold, who actually was the first chancellor, just closed his eyes for the last time this week.
Oh, okay.
And so he was the first African-American chancellor for Peralta. And we were the first to actually honor him after all these years. And so we're able to honor the accomplishment of the students and honor the accomplishments of the faculty and staff who put in endless times of work so that we can acknowledge the accomplishments, because we don't do well, in my humble opinion, on honoring each other, even though we put in so much hard work.
What is it you think we should be doing to honor people more?
Well, first of all, I think that we have to acknowledge when a person has a skill set or gifted, we have to allow those people to be our leaders. And we have to honor them and put them in a position so that they can speak for us. And if we send them, then they can come back and bring the resources, the knowledge, and the information. And I've just come to the conclusion there are people such as yourself, Dr. Besakoff, who actually does the deep sea fishing. And so when we're fishing in ponds and lakes, you have the remedy for deep sea. So it's much easier when you're fishing in fresh water as opposed to salt water out in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Outstanding conversation right here with Dr. Lawrence Vanhook as we are listening to the President's Desk, heard right here on 96.9 FM, KGPC, seen on Peralta TV, and of course viewed anytime online at kgpc969.org. We were talking a little bit about the PA graduation, or the Peralta African American graduation. How do you see that it's evolved over the years?
Oh, my God. It has evolved from just a thumbnail sketch of sending out invitations to people who had put in for graduation, both summer, fall, and spring. and coming together and allowing their families to come together. We give them a opportunity to have an African descent sash that was made in Ghana with their year in class on it. And we're able to allow them to really express. We have three things that we ask them to put on their paper: what school they graduated from, what accomplishment, whether it be a degree or a certificate. And thirdly, whose shoulders do they stand on? Because all of us stand on somebody's shoulders who was either an encouragement, who gave some resources, who prayed for you, whatever the case was. There's no self-made individual. Somebody had to help you get there. And so we've evolved in that process. And that has been so exciting. Let me just say this as a point of reference. Every year I do the research, 40% in 16 years of our graduates and certificated people are first in their family. First generation graduates. And you would think in 2024 that we would be better. But every time I come along, because I'm a first generation graduate in my family, I'm 8 of 11 kids. So, and I'm at the bottom. And so that's what's so exciting. When you get to see families show up and people are breaking to take pictures of their children, their family members, their wives, their husbands, because we're in a community college. And every year, as you know yourself, it has its own flavor. Something magical comes out every single year that's different from the other year, that makes it unique in its essence.
What I found amazing about it is that it's a graduation where it just seems like you talk about the people whose shoulders you stand on. To see a graduation where you see the parents or the support people there. And in some cases, one thing I've remarked in the 3 that I've attended is that some of them actually, kind of come up on stage, or, they're actually, with the graduates as that happens. And I know our student keynote actually had his mother and grandmother up.
Yes.
That was something amazing.
From Laney College.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's on his way to HBCU. I'm so proud of that boy.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Sir.
But whose shoulders do you stand on?
I actually stand on my mother's shoulders. My mother was from East Texas. My mother graduated from high school. She's actually 11 of 13 kids. In the 60s, we left California and had to go to East Texas, where it was her responsibility to take care of her parents. And so I've asked the question for so many years, wait a minute, you was not that smart. Who voted that you had to go back, leave California and take care of your parents? And so when they died, we ended up moving back to California. And so my mother actually was an encourager. And she was the one that motivated me even when I couldn't do it. She stood up in crowds and said that I could. So that gave me the energy to go make it happen, even when I wasn't for sure.
Undergraduate, you went to school in Texas, correct?
Bishop College in Dallas, Texas, HBCU.
Did a little bit of homework before today's show. What was going to college like in Texas compared to maybe an experience somebody'd have here in California?
Well, the truth is, I didn't go to school to learn. I went to school to play basketball.
Okay.
And when I got to HBCU, well, the competition, everybody, 90% of the student population was all African American and African descent. And so we didn't have any barriers of ethnicity. And so all of the things that you would actually be able to lift as a complaint was no complaint. And I had so many teachers, when I didn't show up for class, they actually called me. They stayed after. It became a real family. Mm-hmm. And so I owe my career to Bishop College in Dallas, Texas. It's now the home of Paul Quinn, on the corner of Simpson, Stewart, and Bonneview in Oak Cliff, Texas.
Paul Quinn, can you explain that?
Yes. So in 86, Bishop College, after 100 and a few years, could not sustain itself and it closed, but we had a beautiful campus. Paul Quinn, if you remember the Great Debaters, the TV show.
Also the outstanding Denzel Washington.
That's exactly right. So the Great Debaters, that school, Paul Quinn, was in Marshall, Texas. And so it moved after 86 to the campus of Bishop College, which when we closed because we could not sustain the campus and the economic upswing that we needed to help the students, it became the namesake of the campus at Bishop College, actually built because it actually also moved from Marshall, Texas back in the 60s.
Okay.
So like I said, I did a little homework on you before today's show, although just over the years, I've certainly appreciated our collaboration and friendship. As far as your doctorate, and when I do get people with doctorates on the show, and I've asked Felicia about her dissertation a couple of times.
Yes.
Just in the space of an elevator ride at Laney College, could you tell our audience, I know that your doctorate was in urban ministry development.
Yes.
All right. As far as your dissertation, what did you focus on?
So I'm an inner city guy.
Okay.
If you want to put me a fish out of water, take me to the rural area. So I studied all of the biblical cities that had the same kind of issues that our inner cities have today. So if you look at Jerusalem, if you look at Capernaum, all of the cities in the Bible days are the same as Oakland, San Francisco, New York, Chicago.
What issues?
Issues of poverty, issues of unemployment, issues of homelessness, issues of an equity gap, issues that concern with racial tension, issues that the inner city deal with. See, because in the inner city, that's where all your schools are. That's where all your legislations are. That's where everything happens in the city. And so I took a look at all of the biblical cities, and the rural areas are not mentioned that much, but Egypt was an inner city. And so that's how I was able to look at Oakland, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, and parlay, or if you would, mirror the cities in the Bible to think about the urban core. And to my surprise, it's the same stuff.
Wow. Did you conduct interviews as part of your dissertation?
Absolutely.
So I imagine you probably talked to some fascinating people.
Oh my God.
Could you tell us a little bit about the subject?
So I was here in context, my dissertation, doctor, I went to in Dayton, Ohio, actually, to United. So I looked for people who had programs that dealt with broken people in communities. So Dr. J. Alfred Smith, who was a senior pastor at Allen Temple Church, he was a phenomenal guy, had a new book out, and just a godfather in the city of the whole Bay Area. Also, Cecil Williams had Glide Memorial. I sat down with him and his wife and all of the programs, from feeding the homeless, from dealing with drug abuse, and all of the housing, the shelters. I interviewed quite a few. Matter of fact, Elihu Harris, who actually was a senator, Willie Brown. So I interviewed politicians, I interviewed community leaders, I interviewed anybody who really wanted to make a difference in the urban core.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting former Mayor Brown a year ago at the San Francisco Lunar New Year parade.
Yes.
That was actually a treat. That was great.
How old is he now?
Ooh, he's probably in his 70s, I would say, at least.
70?
70s.
Older?
Older, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he wears it well then.
He does very well.
Obviously, from my answer, we have that. You know, when I did my dissertation, and it was, let's see, I finished mine when I finished my doctoral studies, really finished my studies themselves in 2010. So this is 2024, 14 years, right?
Yes.
And for me, I focused on community colleges and how they do fundraising. And, you know, I thought I was going to get some magic formula that I would carry with me forever. And that didn't necessarily happen. But what I do carry with me every day is that whatever your efforts are only as good as the strength of your core team.
Absolutely.
When you're coming together to do projects or do activities. As far as your dissertation, and it sounds like it was a fascinating one, and I hope I get to read it sometime,
Yes,
quite frankly.
I got a ISBN number coming.
So here, but I'm going to ask the question to you: is there a piece of that work that you did, that long paper that you wrote, that is your dissertation? Is there a piece of it that you continue to carry with you every day, just as the internal synergy piece is something I carry?
There's several. So I have an emphasis in organizing. So the organizing component is one that I really, really carry. There's a couple rules of organizing that I learned that I never forget, that I often teach. First rule of organizing: no friends, no enemies, just common interests. When you have a common interest, it doesn't matter what side you're on. We have a common goal, and we need to come together to make that happen.
That's one of the beautiful things about education. You can always say we're all here for the students, and who is going to disagree with that?
Absolutely.
That's the place where you can go.
Absolutely. So the organizing piece for me, but to know that every inner city, people, there are no homeless in the rural areas. There has to be something that makes people drive to that place. I was able to interview some senators right now. I don't know if you know it, but San Francisco and Las Vegas was in a battle, because when San Francisco would send busloads of homeless to Las Vegas with a ticket. And
I did not know that.
To Las Vegas of all places.
And then Las Vegas began to find out where all these people were coming from. And so it was really crazy, because then they tried to send the people
back.
So
I guess the bus companies were doing well.
Yeah, you notice that Governor Babbitt puts people in El Paso on the bus and sends them to New York. So this is the kind of, and it's amazing because there are no new tricks. I don't know if that's the right word. This stuff has been going on all the time.
Okay. Perfect opening here, because obviously housing insecurity is a huge issue in Oakland.
Huge.
And I think, and you were a piece of this effort, what we did with Free College the last couple of years.
Yes.
We started to fight the war on poverty a little bit. So I'm going to ask you this as a soldier in that war.
Please.
Homelessness in Oakland. What do we have to do to address it?
So we have now over 5,000 homeless. 70% are men, or actually 80% of that men. 70% of that 80% is African in descent. We have a few children out on these streets. And during COVID, it became really, really, really tough. We have to, in my mind, first of all, secure some homeless housing to get them out of the open atmosphere. We need to spend quite a bit of money to make sure that we meet the needs of the unsheltered. I can be honest with you, in my humble estimation, the unsheltered are the hardest group to work with, because what are you going to threaten them with? You're going to kick them out? They're already out. What are you going to threaten them with? I'm not going to give you any food. They already have to fend for their food. And so those are the complications. And you need special people who are trained to move the homeless population into a secure place. Then you can begin to one by one move them into secure housing, because a lot of those moved out to Antioch. If you remember the push, when they left the inner city, they left Geneva Towers in San Francisco, and they pushed them to Stockton, to Pittsburgh, to Antioch, where there's more African descent people in Antioch than any other city in California now, and that's crazy. But a lot of those people got loans, and in 2 years, they had a balloon payment that they could not pay. So they couldn't stay in Antioch, and so they found themselves back in Oakland, surf couching on family members until they wore their welcome out, and then they became homeless.
Dr. Vanhook, this is fascinating conversation so far. Can you stick around for a little?
Oh, absolutely.
The show would love to have you stay with us.
Absolutely.
And just certainly want to remind our listeners that you are tuned in to the President's Desk, heard right here on FM 96.9 in Oakland, KGPC, also online at kgpc969.org. And of course, to our viewing audience, certainly appreciate you as you tune in on Peralta TV. So as we transition at this point in the show, I'd like to send a reminder out to our students at Laney College that if you are in the middle of your studies and find yourself in some sort of need, be it a stolen laptop, flat tire, getting behind in your rent, whatever it might be, my office, the President's Office at Laney College, does offer what we call the President's Emergency Scholarship. This is a one-time scholarship for students enrolled in at least 6 units. Of up to $500 just to help you get through that one-time crisis you might be having. If you have any questions about that, I'd like you to reach out directly to me. I'm President Rudy Besikoff. You can call me at 510-464-3236 or send an email to rbesikof@peralta.edu, and someone in my office will absolutely reach out to help you. As we arrange for these scholarships, a number of our colleagues on the Laney campus and throughout the Peralta community and in the Oakland community over the years have donated to this scholarship fund, and we certainly try to make sure it all gets used. Also, as a one-time reminder to our employees and community members, all charitable gifts to Laney College are tax deductible and processed through the Peralta Colleges Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. If you have any questions about the foundation, please reach out to them at 510-587-7809 or email them at pfs@peralta.edu. And also a special message to our employees. Basically, through payroll deduction for as little as the price of a cup of coffee a week, your donations deducted pre-tax can actually pay for up to 2 classes for students just with a cup of coffee and through the year. And it's an amazing donation that you can make. And if you have any questions about establishing such a donation, please feel free to reach out to me or to the Peralta Colleges Foundation. Also, certainly one of the things we continue to take pride in is our Employment Services Office. We have jobs available on campus and throughout industry through that office. And Raya Zion does an incredible job placing people, and she can be reached at rzion@peralta.edu or by calling 510-464-3530. Dr. Vanhook, I know also you get behind a number of efforts, but could you maybe just tell us a little bit about the PA scholarship and maybe if people are interested in donating, could you provide some information?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Besikoff. We are the president, our current sitting president for the Peralta Association of African American Affairs. And our job is to do the same thing, what you just heard Dr. Besikoff talk about. If you have issues where you need emergency funds, you can go through the Peralta Foundation under the PAW banner and receive some resources. We also give out scholarships. We had 8 different recipients this year. And if you are in need of scholarship resources, all you have to do is reach out through the foundation, or you can go to our Facebook page, or you can find us on the Peralta web, so that you can actually get a hold of us and you can hear about the scholarships that we have moving forward so that you can actually help pay for the education or help pay for some of the issues that you're faced with as you try to finish community college.
Dr. Vanhook, if someone out there is listening or watching and has a question, how can they get in touch with you?
Listen, that's real easy. Put capital L, as a matter of fact, VANHOOK, L Vanhook at Peralta.edu. It's really simple. L Vanhook at Peralta.edu. Or you can use this telephone number, 510-333-1735.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Vanhook, as we return to the second part of the show, I'd like to go back in time to the first time you and I actually sat down and had a face-to-face conversation. And Felicia, I'm going to turn your way a little bit. So Lorena Baldazzo originally started the President's Desk podcast. She was kind of the founding mother of the podcast, if you will. one day she had some promotional materials put together and had come across your name, Dr. Vanhook, and suggested I go out and pay you a visit. And I actually did go out to Community Church in Emeryville, which is where you are. Where's it located?
1527 34th Street. It's actually in the city of Oakland, but if you look at Google, it says Emeryville.
All right.
So we fight between each city. Depends on how we feeling today.
Hey, you welcome both cities. There you go. But so, I've got to say, going to church, you think of services, you think of Sunday school, but I have to say, just going to his church that day, and you and I sat down and talked for 2 hours.
Yes, we
and
did.
It could have been 3, just because of the conversation. So much more goes on at your church besides worship. Could you talk about just some of your efforts into the community as part of the church?
So it goes back to my doctoral dissertation. It's really simple. If you're in the urban core, if you're in the inner city, you have to deal with the inner city issues. And as a faith leader, I believe that people are not looking for a long-term solution. They're looking for a quick fix with the issues that they're faced right now. And during COVID, we needed vaccinations and testing.
How many vaccinations were you doing a day?
We got up to 1,700 a day.
Wow, that's
1,700 lines around the church building. And listen, I was so excited because whether you believe in whomever, people stood in line for hours and they didn't care about it was a church. They didn't care about anything other than getting the services. And that's what the community church is all about, meeting the needs of the people within the communities where we live, work, and worship. And that's really who we are as a faith leader.
Okay. I like to hear about all your work that you're doing, Dr. Vanhook. I also know that you do outreach for Laney College. And we're in a challenging time where education is difficult to translate into money immediately. What do you tell future students? How do you talk to them?
It's real easy. For me, I think we beat the word education too much, and so it has lost its significance. But what I tell all students is you need some options and you need some skills. So where do you go to get those skills and get options? You can go to the community college and get an immediate certificate. We have range of certificates, and most people who start with a certificate say, well, that's not bad. Let me keep going. And so there's been so many students that came with one idea doing 18 weeks or whatever they needed to do, but end up finding that the more information you have, the more options you have, the more certificates and the degrees, the better you can control your destiny and your income ability and your pay scale.
What is a major or an area of interest that when community members are reaching out to you, thinking about being students, saying, I'm interested in studying what?
So it varies. Now everybody's talking about something that deals with tech. The younger students, because they grew up with technology, this AI and all of the gaming.
Well, I got to say, Dr. Vanhook, actually, Laney College is among the first of the community colleges in the States to offer studies in artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And I have a feeling Felicia might have some thoughts on that.
No, I think that's very good because AI is here and I don't want to say that it's causing problems, but what I see is a lot of those base level jobs being eliminated because now the computer can do it. And how can students kind of step above that baseline into better economic opportunities?
Well, that's very, very important. Let me just be honest with you. As I think the older you are, the more you are adapted to change because it's moving so fast. But this AI, and I welcome whatever comes our way, because I think it is pushing us to our future. And so I try my best to be open for the adjustments. And that's kind of how I sell moving to college, because most people are afraid of big campuses. They're afraid of telling you what they don't know. And so we have the Umoja programs so that we can give you a smaller community so that you can be supported. So these are the small things that we put in place that we also help students to come and feel at home.
Our Umoja program is actually growing, and it certainly provides a tremendous amount of support to students, especially African-American students. As someone who's out there promoting Laney College, what do you tell them about our Umoja program?
First of all, I tell them it's a community that's caring. It's a community that's concerned about not only you, your education, but your family. It's also concerned about making sure that you are healthy when you come to school. It wants to give you the wraparound services, what I call barrier removal. And Shanice is doing a phenomenal job.
Elegant. She's actually been on our show.
Absolutely. At making sure, and she just has the right spirit that helps the students to feel at home coming. And then Janelle Tillison is just such a phenomenal counselor that the students actually come to her to find out what it is that they need, so that they can get the appropriate steps, so they won't waste a lot of time trying to figure out what to do and where to go. That is the place to be.
Going back to your church, one of the things I learned about just reading about it is the House of Grace, or the Chair's House.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So Carice House is a actual...
Thanks for correcting the pronunciation.
Yes.
Carice House.
So Carice simply is a Greek word for men of grace. So during my era of the last 10, 15 years, because I think we're in about a fourth generation or fifth generation past crack epidemic. And a lot of our fathers and men became either missing, absent, or addicted. And so we have a men's home entitled the Home of Grace, where you can come to our men's home and we put you on a program and make sure that you become productive, and we work with you. We try our best to give you a in-house job, and then we move to a outhouse job. And so we have partnerships with Home Depot and a lot of other places, so that once you get the skills, know how to show up on time, come dress appropriate, then we send you out. And then we actually kick you out after you get some money in the bank, because now you have to relaunch. And that's what the Carice House is doing. It's just a house of grace. And so we push you forward.
So it's not just an opportunity to address issues of addiction, but also help with re-engagement, especially into employment. Is that correct?
Barrier removal. Absolutely.
So kind of, rather than just fixing the issue, providing that next step or that piece of the men.
Absolutely. And it's because we feel that you've lost so much, time has changed so much. You've got either child support issues because you either were locked away or you were addicted and the clock just kept moving. You got to get your driver's license. You need to go to school. So we also put you in community college, Laney College, where you can also get some skills or trade. And so we just kind of hold your hand. And we have classes at our church with all men, so that you can literally know how to engage without being so angry and without having to be so defensive.
What's it been like to engage other colleagues throughout Peralta as the president of PA?
It's tough. If I can just be transparent, it's tough because, well, you have to. Let me just give my disclaimer. I'm so excited about education opportunities. I'm real upbeat. And sometimes people in the system, because they have not been honored, because they have not been recognized, they feel like they've been working and working with no recognition. And so once you get a community of leaders with low morale, it's really hard to lift up the people who's supposed to be lifting up the people. And so, and it's a lot of one-on-one work. It's a lot of making sure that you meet the people right where they are, because I used to just assume that everybody was just like me. Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I actually have a good question, a kind of counterpoint question
Yes.
for you about this in a second, about the definition of leadership. But before I do that, of course, I'm going to remind our listeners and our viewing audience that you're tuned into the President's Desk, heard here on 96.9 FM, KGPC, also online at kgpc969.org, and of course, to our Channel 27 viewers on Peralta TV. All right. So I think there's probably, it's not an either or, but I'm going to ask the question. Somebody that I talked to in my program, when I went into my leadership program, gave me this definition of leadership that I try to follow. And it said, leadership, great leadership, is about not caring about the work that has to be done, but not caring about getting any of the credit. So that's the definition that I was given when it comes to leadership. But at the same time, what you're saying is that for a lot of our colleagues, getting that recognition is at the same time important.
Yes.
How do you reconcile those two things?
Well, to me, I think we have to do it in pockets of strength. Sometimes we have to go and honor people who sometimes just work. And you don't know what's going on at home. You don't know what's going on in their community, and they got to come to work. And sometimes when work is not exciting and when it's not fun, it becomes a drag. And so you got to be excited about what you do, but you also have to be able to know that if you're empowering people, the question is, where do you get your power source from? And so that's the reason why I think that a lot of people are really struggling because they're dealing with so many different pockets of issues. And so they have to go back and refuel. I mean, you know, as a professional, that's the reason why we have what we call sabbatical, so that you can take a break, refresh, write a book, or take an experience so that you can remind yourself why you do what you do.
Felicia, taking a break, what's that?
Right. Great.
What keeps you up at night?
My mother. My mother's 91. She'll be 92.
Oh, wow.
I'm 8 of 11. And I kind of love my mother a little differently from my siblings. My mother's still taking care of 70-year-olds. And that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I had a great uncle, Nathan, may he rest in peace, who in his 80s was doing Meals on Wheels to seniors, and a lot of them were younger than he was. So, no, exactly. So that's amazing. What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning that you don't need an alarm clock for?
I'm so glad you asked. Every day when I wake up, I get a new opportunity to add value to somebody's life. That's a easy way for me to get up. I get to say, whose life do I get to add value to today? So I go looking for those people.
We talked about Karis a little bit, and you talked before about during COVID, the
Yes.
vaccination support.
Yes.
Community church, what is the number one support being provided to people right now?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So we're in partnership with Bank of Montreal, BMO.
That's what that means.
Yes, BMO, Bank of Montreal, bought by Harris Bank. They're in major partnership. They've given us an opportunity to partner to give. Tomorrow, I don't know when this cast, but tomorrow, HUD is partnering with us. People with fixed incomes can go through a HUD class. They get $200,000 down payment assistance. Also, BMO gives you almost 80,000 along with that, so that people on fixed incomes can reach the American dream. And so we have classes. We are really working heavily to make sure that people get business loans up to $50,000. They have financial literacy in every way. So that's what I'm doing literally right now.
That's amazing. So as we bring this part of the show to the close of our TV audience, especially what you just shared about housing support.
Yes.
People want to get in touch with you, Dr. Vanhook. How do they do so?
Again, you can contact me at 510-594-2207. That's my office number at my faith center. Somebody will get to you. You can go to the website, CCC, the number 4 dot of ccc4c.org. Let me say that one more time. CCC, the number 4, and then one more C.org. You'll see all of the programs we have, all of the linkages that we have in our community.
Amazing. And we want to thank our Peralta TV audience for tuning in and invite you to tune in anytime on Peralta TV to hear the President's Desk. All right, Dr. Vanhook, as we continue into bonus coverage, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about this. Just in terms of the outreach you've been doing for Laney College.
Yes.
Certainly, of course, you've talked about reaching into the African-American community, but you haven't stopped there. Could you tell our audience, our listening audience at this point, a little bit more?
So not only do I reach, but I connect with several different partners, have partnership. I am the membership chair for the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, where we actually try our best to empower young men who are fathers, women who are single parents. I try my best to engage the NAACP so that we can make sure that people get out to vote. So I really live my life to try again to make it better for somebody.
In the 2 or 3 minutes we have left, could you tell our audience just about the event we had at Laney College for 100 Black Men?
So we had the 100 Black Men Black Expo, where we bring in partners, Target, Home Depot, places that can gainfully give you an employment literally on the spot. You don't have to have any experience. You don't have to have any references. All you have to do is be willing, show up. And we've been able to partner with Laney College. We'll be coming back again next year.
Yes.
But we actually want to make sure that we connect people not to a telephone call, but to a person. We bring in the top leaders to give you motivational speeches. We actually have classes so that you can get answers to your questions. So we do that as the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area on an ongoing basis. And if I could just say, there's 2 things that's happening. For the first time, Dr. Rudy, I'm going to get you some tickets. June the 21st, I'm going to be throwing out the first pitch at the Oakland A's.
Oh, really?
They're going to be honoring the 100 Black Men, and all the tickets you need. Anybody from the Peralta family, especially Laney, get a hold of me the best way you can so I can get you tickets to show up. And then one of my dreams for the 100 Black Men, which we'll be launching on August 3rd, the father-daughter dance.
Oh.
That is my staple. I've raised the money for it. We have not in the past done anything for our daughters, but we got to have somebody for our young men to meet, greet, and marry and have families. And so August 3rd at the California Ballroom this year will be our first inaugural 100 father-daughter dinner dance. And so I'm just so excited. There's so many things I can go on and on and on.
Amazing.
To talk about.
Well, Dr. Vanhook, as we close up things, I just want to take a moment as the president of Laney College.
Yes.
Thank you for the partnership with Laney. I know bringing you in to help us do outreach was not a hard decision at all. And I'm so glad to have you as a partner in education and really just a partner to support Oakland. I think it's something that's been very important, and just want to thank and recognize you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, listeners, as we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we want to thank our audience up and down the great state of California, from the far north and the 717 and the 530, all the way down to SoCal and the 619. Big shout out there as always.
Yeah.
And this week, I also want to send a shout out to the 949 area code. I have a feeling we might have some Orange County listeners today, and want to send a shout out to you as well. But as well, I want to also our listeners right here in Oakland in the 510 tuning in from Lake Merritt, Oakland, Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here at the Laney campus listening to us today. As we close up shop at the president's desk, straighten out the desk chairs and turn the desk light off on today's program. Felicia, great job. As always, please take us home.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Pa. I also want to give a shout out to 100 Black Men and try to encourage them to do something to keep the A's in Oakland. Thank you for tuning in to the President's Desk, a program available on radio and podcast, hosted by Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff. It airs each Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. To listen to the podcast anytime, find us on kgpc969.org/programming/current shows and click on the President's Desk. If you have a suggestion for a future show, please email us at laneypodcast@peralta.edu.